saving more lives.
You're watching Rogers TV.
Welcome to Daytime Ottawa here on Rogers TV. A great show ahead. We have two wonderful local authors on the show. We're going to be talking a little art, a little opera on the show. But we're going to talk about a topic that I struggled with for many years, and I'm sure many viewers have struggled with it as well, right? You got all these pots and pans. You have different styles and different types, but you have no idea how to use them. Well, you're in good hands today because my good friend, he is an amazing chef. He's also a cookbook author. Roma Avril joins me back on the show. How are you? It's great to have you back. And I was telling you, I love having people like you because I am not even kidding. This is something I have struggled with. What specifically do most people struggle with when it comes to sort of their pots and pans?
I will say not knowing what to use and when to use it.
Right.
Because there's really such specifics, and today I kind of like brought my favorite.
Okay.
Because the chef has favorites.
Of course.
So I like to work with Oaklad, but it's really not so much, because you know, if you look around it, like we have so many different things. We have different size, we have different length, we have different material, because all materials are not equal. And that's what we're going to learn today. And we're going to start talking about one that has not been doing so well, which is non-stick.
Okay.
Because
not doing so well, why?
Because people are afraid. They've been hearing a lot about, you know, like maybe it's not safe to cook with.
Right.
So I'm going to say like yes and no, because like everything, we do have to look into specifics. We have to watch the label when we buy food. It's the same thing when we buy a pan.
Interesting.
So the one I have right here, it is the All-Clad like HA1 series. And I'm going to talk about this one because it kind of like check a lot of the boxes.
Okay.
One being that it has 3 layers of the non-PFOA free, so which means that the thing that actually harms you, that bleeds into your food, well, this one is kind of like safe from it.
Okay.
So we can actually cook with it. But if we talk about non-stick, we have to talk about like things that don't need high heat. That's why we use them. We'll talk about stainless steel, which is the opposite later on.
Right.
But the idea here is we're gonna make eggs, which is what I'm about to do.
Okay.
We're going to do pancakes. We're going to do crepes and things like that, right?
Okay.
So this is kind of what we want to do. Things that don't really need a lot of fat as well. I put like very little. That's even too much. You can probably do with
Really?
naan.
Okay. Because I always plop a ton of butter in, even when I'm using non-stick to do eggs. I don't necessarily need to do that.
You don't have to, because you have that cutting, right? So, and something to know about non-stick too is you have to be careful on how you use them. So you definitely don't want to scratch them.
Right.
So they're important. Although this one, again, is made so you can, it's easier on the scratching.
Okay.
Definitely has like a higher standard, but most actually non-stick, like you have to use something like a little spatula, like a rubber spatula, so that way you don't do any scratching, which we know is not good.
I hope my family's watching this because somebody has scratched my non-stick and no one's owning up to it.
And that is not cool.
Hey,
so
you heard
please,
the man. Not cool.
Okay, it's okay. Nothing's gonna happen. But you see right here we have our eggs cooking gently, slowly.
Yeah.
And one thing too about non-stick, it's that you shouldn't put in a dishwasher.
Oh yeah, that I knew. Okay.
So this one you can.
Really?
That series in particular, you can, and you also have kind of like a pattern underneath that is compatible to most induction. So it's like an induction, which is great because sometimes that's the issue with induction is they actually do not work with most of like modern induction cooktops. So this one does.
Okay.
But yeah, so one thing, not to do it, and no thermal shocking, which means that, you know, we love a good, like, you know, when your pan is out, you're gonna put it under the sink and you have the smoke and you feel like you're a chef in the kitchen. Do not do that, okay?
Why?
Because this is actually really bad, because now you're gonna distort the metal, you're also like shocking the idea of that coating as well, right? So everything is kind of like putting in jeopardy, right? So that's why you make sure you let it rest, you let it cool down, you're having your eggs, you're having your breakfast.
Okay.
And then when it's cooled down, you can kind of
you know what's happening when I get home tonight, okay? Is my wife is gonna say, I told you so.
Yeah.
because I used to do that. I used to, right when I was finished, right, no matter what it was, I would take the pan and I would put it under the water right away to get all the bits off, right, any of the sticky stuff.
Well, if that makes you feel,
said, don't do it.
If that makes you feel better, I've been guilty of it.
Okay.
So you know what I mean? Like even I did it,
Yeah,
right? So
even the pro did it.
But hey, we learned and then we stopped doing it, and that's why I'm here today. So you also stop doing it.
Okay.
So your eggs is cooked right here. You can see, like it's slide off. We barely had no oil. I'm gonna slide into the pan because I'm making you steak and egg today.
Oh, nice.
And look at that. It just slide off, no problem at all.
Beautiful.
But there's one thing that we're always afraid of is to cook eggs
on stainless steel. Oh, I'm like, to this day, I'm still afraid, even though I know how to do it now. But you're going to explain how to do it, because there's something special about stainless steel, right?
It's again, we talked about earlier that we want low heat on our non-stick. When it comes to stainless steel, we definitely want to cook things that require high temperature.
Okay.
So would I want to do an egg in it? No, it's really not the idea here. It's more so just to show you that when you get those proper temperature, you're going to be able to slide that egg no problem.
Really?
And then, of course, you definitely need fat. I mean, there's no way around it.
Right.
That's why, like, if you also, like, in terms of your diet, if you prefer to have kind of like a lesser butter, lesser oil, which I understand this is not your case, but that's no problem at all.
But maybe I'll change my ways now. Who knows?
Maybe you will. Maybe you will. And then we can use the non-stick. But if we're okay with, I would say, like a very French breakfast, we are definitely okay to use this pan also from Oak Lab, which I love. And then we'll talk more specifically, because again, there's a lot to it when it comes to stainless steel, because I have like 4 different kind of stainless steel.
Right.
So we're definitely gonna talk about that. But
and now you can use this type of utensil, right?
Yes, exactly.
Because we're not going to harm the pan.
That's really what it is, right? So like you can see already it's sliding off, right? There's no problem. It's got to cook though. There's one thing when we saw a lot on the TV show as well, like, you know, chefs love to like shake pans and stuff. And I think I have told you the same thing last time, and I'm gonna say it again. Let your food cook. Like do not shake it. Like let it be, let it cook.
Okay.
And that's how it's actually going to release itself from the pan, right? So definitely want to pay attention to that.
Okay.
And then it's going to gently take off. And
I guess that's the same with the grill too, right? Because a lot of people, they're like, oh, I can't cook chicken breast on the grill because it always sticks. It's probably because they're turning it too quickly.
That's so you have to preheat for sure.
Yeah.
Same idea, really. You do have to preheat your barbecue. And I know people sometimes actually put like oil on the barbecue, and I always tell people like this is the last thing you want to do.
Really? Why?
It's not healthy because now you have oil burning at a really high temperature. Like your barbecue is going to go to 400 degrees, 500 degrees, even so, and then you have that oil that just like burns and burns and burns, and then it goes into your food, right?
Right. So, yeah, and I mean, it's the same principle, I guess, if you're cooking a steak on a cast iron inside or a stainless steel, or right?
Exactly.
You got to leave it there and let it cook, and then it'll give way. That's
really
right?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Okay. So it's gonna like, because you have what we call the Maya process, which is kind of the caramelization of the meat.
Yeah.
But that has to happen. You're putting a cold stuff. Right. Especially one thing we talked about before too is to let our meats temper.
Right.
So like again, we talk about thermal shock and all that stuff, right?
Okay.
So that's what's important.
He's going to stick around. You stick around at home, because we'll be back talking a little more stainless steel right after the break. Don't go anywhere.
You're watching an interesting local show on Rogers TV and you want to know more. That's when you head to rogerstv.com. Our website provides more information about our programs, our hosts, our schedule, and about how you too can get involved with Rogers TV. Visit us online at rogerstv.com.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Trio Financial Planning, helping individuals and families live today and build for tomorrow. Branton Renovation is pleased to support this episode of Daytime Ottawa. Branton Renovations, Ottawa's award-winning renovations team.
Kids these days, people say we lack initiative.
And technology, that we're all addicted. Kids these days, we hear that we only care about ourselves. Apparently, we're lazy.
And don't seem to have any sense of independence.
Actually, kids these days are facing a lot.
Because the world has changed, and so have our health issues. Kids these days, we could really use your help. Join CHIO in our biggest fundraising campaign ever to transform pediatric care.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Dustin Design and Drafting, your first step toward building your dream project with a team approach. Daytime Ottawa is proudly supported by Mary's Must Read Book Club. Follow Mary on social media at Mary K. Taggart for her latest book club picks.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Eastboro Designs. Eastboro Designs, designing a bold lifestyle through functionality and beauty.
Welcome back to the show. We are back with chef and cookbook author Romain Avril, and we were talking a little stainless steel before the break, and we're going to continue talking about stainless steel. So we have our egg.
We have our egg.
That's
no cheating. There was no cuts.
No cheating.
There was no cuts.
Exactly.
And you can see it just slides in the pan. I mean, this is, if that's not magic, I don't know what that is. It's not magic. It's stainless steel done properly.
Exactly.
So you see, I'm just gonna you're getting like a double ration of eggs because you're a growing boy.
I am.
And I'm gonna take care of you today.
You were just telling me about the stove oven that you have at home that you can actually use your phone to.
Yeah. So it's because we were just saying how it's true. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to preheat your larger oven, and I think that's why people are leaning towards air fryer. And I will say, I just got an air fryer from Tifo like a month ago.
Okay.
I'm guilty. I'm using all the time now because I'm reheating my food. It's small. It's quick.
Right.
But yes, when I'm on the walk, I walk the dog and then I preheat my oven, and I'm a lucky guy. I guess.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So what are we doing with this next bit of stainless steel?
So we're gonna talk about stainless steel, and I know again we talked earlier with the egg that a lot of people are afraid of it, but stainless steel is the preferred choice for chefs.
Okay.
This is what we're using. This is what you're gonna, when you go to the restaurant, most likely the chefs are going to use it. But again, just like we talked about the non-stick earlier, not every non-stick is equal, and that's the same thing with stainless steel.
Okay.
There is such a thing as quality. There's such a thing as the type of stainless steel we're using. Right here I brought a beautiful collection also from All-Clad because it is, to be fair, the preferred brand for chefs.
Is it really? Okay.
It's really been, you know what I mean? Like when I get to work with them, like I was like a little child at Christmas. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Nice.
I'm not gonna lie to you. So while this is heating, because I'm gonna make you a steak, we're gonna talk about the actual quality of stainless steel.
Okay.
So I mentioned earlier, when you read the back of the package, when it comes to your food, you have to do it as well with your material because we want to look for something that is 1810.
Okay.
So 1810 is actually the grade of aluminum. Stand for the chromium and what's the way the stainless steel is made. If you look at your cutlery, if you go to a small cafe, usually it's scratched up and then you can see it's not very durable.
Yeah.
When you're buying 1810, you're gonna see a difference. First of all, it's going to help with a few things like the quality, the durability, the shine, because at the end of the day, we are in an era where we are showing the kitchen off and we like shiny things.
Yeah. Open kitchens everywhere now.
Exactly. Yeah. And also it's going to just not have your food also leaching with the metal.
Right.
So that's super, super important. So I understand it comes at a higher cost, but for a reason. And it's also something that you can pass on to your children if you're taking care of them.
Yeah.
They're not going anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a great point.
And layers. We have to talk about layers. Like an onion, a pan has multiple layers.
Okay.
And it usually goes from 1 to 5. What I have in front of you is from 3 to 5. I think that's something I would like to pay attention to. And I'm going to start right here. This is my D5. So this is my D3. So D3, why? Because if you actually pay close attention, you're going to see 3 layers.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So they made it super simple for us, D3, 3 layers. Right. So what are those 3 layers? We have 1 layer of aluminum, in between 2 layers of stainless steel.
Okay.
One being polished, which is like the center, for obviously that's what we're cooking with.
Right.
And right here we have the D5, which I would say this is the 2 entry pots, the one that we want to have lots in our home, the one we're going to cook the most of. And I'm going to take the little hat, and you can see here as well, you can really see the 5 layers.
Yeah, that is
so
awesome.
Here we have 2 aluminum and 3 stainless steel. So what does the aluminum do? So that's actually what's conductive. This is how you're going to have precision cooking.
Okay.
And I'm going to show you in the pan how when we cook something, we're actually going to have a steak that's even throughout, because the pan has the perfect heat conduction, right? So that's something that why we want to pay attention. Of course, the more layer, the better.
All right.
And here I'm actually using a new pan that's called graphite. And the reason why, I'm going to have you just like lift it just so you can see the weight.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Is it ever light?
It's super light, and for somebody like me has like a broken wrist, you know what I mean? Like it's definitely advantageous. So that's the D5. We're just there.
Yeah.
You can see the difference in weight, right? So I'm going to cook your steak.
Okay.
So yeah, graphite is like a new. So this is a little smoky, so we're just gonna take that to the side. Last time I was not hot enough, this time I'm too hot. I'm not gonna flame the studio up. But again, like it's all good. We're good here. And I'm gonna grab my steak.
Okay.
So again, I've sous vide it for today's show because we don't have 20 minutes.
Right.
And I'm gonna place it away. It's actually good to put the food away from the fire as well, just in terms of safe. You have less splattering and etc.
Okay.
So we're gonna let that cook. And one thing I'm gonna do after I sear the steak, we're gonna create fond, right? So like the caramelization between the meats and everything.
Right.
And that's going to create some flavors. And I'm gonna show you like a quick sauce that we can do with the pan.
Okay.
Because like...
How much time do we have, Dong? Like 2 minutes? 2 minutes.
We're gonna make it work.
Okay.
If not, I will tell you all about it.
Okay, there you go.
But yeah, so that's why I like this pan. It's also even better than the D3 to D5 because the graphite is actually like around right here because you can't bend metal because this is what it is. It's all bend metal together.
Right.
So like the graphite actually is just at the bottom, but that's like superior heat.
Okay.
And we have one more collection right here, and you can see because it's super stylish.
Is that copper?
It's copper.
Okay.
So it's what I call la crème de la crème when it comes to stainless steel. Definitely more pricier, but the better. So when you want to do like precise cooking, pastry, it's definitely amazing. But look at that sear, beautiful,
nice,
all the way throughout.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna let that sear on the other end. You're probably gonna have to eat after, but that's
Everyone's
okay.
all the guests are gonna be hungry when they come in here.
For sure.
That is for sure.
But yeah, so that collection is great too. Again, even more precision. So you have like the copper in between all the layers. So it's pretty awesome. So here we have a steak.
Normally you have your fan going at home.
Exactly.
By the way.
Exactly.
When
Today
this is
we
happening.
don't. So you could almost like do the sauce kind of like off as well. So we want to get like all this beautiful like pain jus. So we're gonna deglaze it with a bit of red wine.
Okay.
And then we're gonna add our sauce.
Oh man, that's
And one thing that's also great with those pans is they actually go in the oven.
As we're wrapping this up, ladies and gentlemen, follow this wonderful chef on Instagram. You can find him at Chef Romain Avril on Instagram. We'll be back with more talking to a local author coming up right after the break. Oh my goodness.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Trio Financial Planning, helping individuals and families live today and build for tomorrow. Branton Renovation is pleased to support this episode of Daytime Ottawa. Branton Renovations, Ottawa's award-winning renovations team.
Join us for Season 4 of Simply Cooking by Chef, Sunday nights at 8 o'clock, right here on Rogers TV.
episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Dustin Design and Drafting, your first step toward building your dream project with a team approach. Daytime Ottawa is proudly supported by Mary's Must Read Book Club. Follow Mary on social media at Mary K. Taggart for her latest book club picks.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Eastboro Designs. Eastboro Designs, designing a bold lifestyle through functionality and beauty.
Welcome back to the show. As promised, we are back with a wonderful local author. She's also publishing now as well through her brand called Rebound Press. Peggy Blair joins me. How you doing?
Nice to see you, Derek.
Good
Thanks
to see
for
you
having me
too.
back.
Oh, it's always a pleasure. Let's before we get into the publishing side of things and some of the exciting things that are happening, let's talk about your latest book. It is called Double Vision. Tell me about it.
A sequel to Shadow Play, which was about an LRT scandal, so it just picks up the action a week later. Same ensemble cast and set in Ottawa. So.
Yeah, why setting in Ottawa? I know obviously you're familiar with Ottawa because you live here, but I'm seeing more and more authors using Ottawa as a backdrop. What makes it such a great backdrop?
Well, I think I hope it's because Canadians are telling Canadian stories for a change instead of setting our books in some, Toronto looking like New York or some unnamed Midwest small town. And I'm quite serious. I think if Canadians don't tell Canadian stories, who's going to do it? The Norwegians? You know what I mean?
No, it's true.
And for a long time, pressure has come from publishing houses to look at the American market and put our books in the United States.
Interesting.
I've put Hungry Ghosts, I put my entire Ramirez series back in print through Rebound Press, but Hungry Ghosts, which was the third one, was initially turned down by Penguin Canada, which was my publisher at the time, because it had a Canadian Indigenous character in it.
Really?
They would only consider it if I made Charlie Pike a Choctaw or a Cherokee and set it in Florida. And I declined. I ended up switching to Simon & Schuster Canada because I really, as I say, I just felt very strongly that Canadians should be able, have to be able to tell Canadian stories, because if we don't, who's going to do it?
Tell me about Rebound Press and then how that came to be.
Yeah, so when I created Shadow Play, I had been previously published by Simon & Schuster Canada, and I sent them the manuscript for it, and because it was set in Ottawa, they didn't really think it was going to be a bestseller, so they declined it. And I just felt it was a good enough story that I'd let my readership decide. So I created Rebound Press. I've now put 6 books in print since I talked to you.
Excellent.
So I have my entire backlist is now back in print. And then I wanted to reach out to other, I call them hybrid authors, where people who often started with big publishers and then for various reasons found ourselves either with, dropping to mid-range publishers and then often just dropping out of sight.
Right.
Because it's a very, very tough business and it's hard to stay published. It's harder to stay published than it is to get published in some ways. So my plan for Rebound Press was that I would reach out to some of these authors that I knew, who I knew were terrific and who just hadn't been able to stay published or due to low sales, not having enough time to build up a readership in their craft. And so I'm going to be publishing Chris Forrest next year, The Wrecking Game. Chris was an Ottawa area author, wrote a brilliant series in Northern Ontario, was originally published through Dundurn Press and then ran into the same problem that so many of us have. So we're very excited. I think that book's going to be an award winner. So I'm really super excited to be putting it out.
What a great segue, because I was just going to go to this award. You just mentioned award winner. You've come up with an award. Tell me about the story behind this award.
Well, that's the Toby Award, which is named after Toby, my spaniel, who's actually a TV watcher. He hasn't learned to read yet, although I'm convinced he's trying to...
And by the way, she's not kidding, because you should follow Peggy on X, I still call it Twitter. Follow Peggy on Twitter because you often post about your dog watching TV.
He is, and he's just so intense about it. He has favorite actors, he has favorite shows, he'll drop his toys to run over to see certain shows. I'm convinced he's trying to learn English, in all honesty. I think that's part of it. So when I decided to create this award, and this award is for, I found out when I created Rebound Press and put my books back in print, that I no longer qualified for awards I had previously won. My first book was the Giller Prize Reader's Choice Award. It was shortlisted for the Arthur Ellis Award. All of my books were nominated for Arthur Ellis Best Novel Awards. I was shortlisted for the Ottawa Book Award. I had an Amazon Best Book Award. I no longer qualified because I was not an eligible publisher.
Wow.
And rather than complain about it, because it was very hurtful and felt very arbitrary, I thought, I'm going to create an award. Obviously, I won't qualify for it because it's my award.
Right.
But it's for self-published Canadian mystery authors who publish trade paperbacks.
Okay.
And, I was, Arthur Ellis no longer exists. They now call it the Award of Excellence, I think. But Crime Writers of Canada would not let me enter Shadow Play because it wasn't sold through regular Canadian retail channels. And, if I'd had it on Amazon, that great Canadian retail channel, I could have entered it, even though I was selling from a website. It was exactly the same.
So have you specifically decided not to sell on Amazon?
I wasn't able to open a vendor's account on Amazon. I kept running into problems trying to do it, and they have no customer service. And I finally thought, why am I standing on my head trying to do this? When I have a website that's dedicated for Rebound Press, people can go there and order these books the same way they would on Amazon. This just doesn't make sense to me.
Right.
And so I created the Toby Award. Because I was here previously, and originally it was like a cardboard tent dog with twist tie glasses sitting on a cat food tin. I sent it off to Carol Nisvitis, who's a metal artist friend of mine, and said, can you turn this into something? And that's what she came up with.
What a great job.
And then Vonda Croissant, who's a silversmith in British Columbia, did the little glasses for me, and the birch actually comes from my acreage. So
nice.
Yeah, so the nice thing about it was I was able to connect with a group of Eastern Ontario librarians. We're going to announce it in May at their meeting in Perth, and my printer is going to print a copy of the winning entry for every participating library to have a copy.
Wonderful.
So we're going to be able to amplify those
that
people.
is great, Peggy. Congratulations. That's an amazing story. Before I run out of time, you've got a very unique book fair as well coming up, right?
I had a free hour, and I thought we should have a mystery author book fair. And I reached out to 8 of my colleagues, so there's 9 of us. Everybody said yes, and we're going to be, in a week, we'll be at the Barhaven Legion between 4 and 8. It's called Crime for Christmas.
Nice.
And everybody will have their books there for sale, and you can come and have a drink because there's a cash bar and meet your favorite mystery author.
Well, and it's so lovely, too, that, everyone always thinks of, no matter what it is, Romain is a chef and they compete against each other and authors are competing for customers. It's not quite the competition everybody thinks. You guys support each other so incredibly well.
I think so. I think we are constantly trying to amplify each other's voices. I mean, a reader loves to read. It's not a zero-sum game where if I buy your book, I'm not going to buy somebody else's. We can all help each other.
Well, congratulations on all the success so far, Peggy.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate you coming today. Crime for Christmas, Barhaven Legion, November 19th, 4 to 8 p.m., as she said. We'll be back with more right after this.
A catastrophic humanitarian crisis is unfolding in Lebanon. Children and families have been killed. Thousands of civilians have lost their homes, and it's estimated that more than 1 million people have been forced to flee. The 12-member agencies of the Humanitarian Coalition are providing life-saving relief, but more aid is urgently needed. You can help. Please donate today at together.ca. Your donation will be matched by the Government of Canada, the Humanitarian Coalition. Together, saving more lives.
Learn all about the creation of the National Capital Region on The History of Ottawa, according to Phil Jenkins, on Rogers TV.
Join Valerie Pringle as she interviews some of the country's most prominent insiders on Canada Files, this season on Rogers TV.
With clubs, leagues, and courts in every province and territory across Canada, squash is the sport for wall-to-wall fun, fitness, and friendship. From coast to coast to coast. Learn to play and you'll want to do it every day. Squash. Play inside the box.
public transit, garbage pickup, parks and recreation programs, snow removal on your street. How can you stay informed about these and other important local services? Tune to City Council coverage on Rogers TV. See your community leaders at work on Rogers TV City Council coverage.
Get front row seats to Music and Beyond's unforgettable summer festival. Experience world-class concerts, mesmerizing performances, and much more. Music and Beyond presents a new season on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to the show. We are back to talk about the arts, and every one of us has a little bit of an artist inside of us. Some more than others. Some are more reluctant than others. I'm talking to you, Jen Hayward. Jen Hayward and Sarah Stewart join me, co-founders of Polykindred Arts Collective. Welcome back. Great to have you here. We were just talking art.
Yes,
right?
We were, yeah.
You've got exciting things happening, right? And
we always have exciting things happening.
Yeah.
I think our youngest member of the Arts Collective, my 4-year-old son, is now the artist in residence at the Osgood Township Museum. So his first day was this week, and that was really adorable and awesome for him.
Well, no kidding.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why art. Why should people try to find that in that artist within themselves?
So I have found, as I try to help people learn to connect, with each other, with themselves, with nature, with the past, that one of the easiest paths to that is art. I think we make a really big mistake as a society of commodifying art, and by making people think if you can't make money off of this, you shouldn't be doing it,
right.
Which is a horrible, terrible thing to do. Humans are made to create. That's part of what makes us, and it doesn't have to hang in a gallery. That process is just as important as the product. So I like to help people connect with themselves through art.
And I agree. I mean, I think we used to respect it so much more. Even, like I was talking to someone the other day about philosophers, right? We used to have this great respect, and now, I mean, where are they anymore, right? I mean, you can find them, but sometimes I agree the way you presented it, people think, art, why would I do it if I can't? But I want to switch the conversation over to Jen here, because Jen is often very reluctant to try new things.
True.
Was this one of those things, Jen? Because I can see you're an artist yourself. I mean, in different, perhaps different types. But how did you feel about this?
Well, I'm a comedian and writer,
that's
and that's
an
because
art
it is. But I do it because I have an insatiable need for attention. So it started on a different path. I grew up with arts. We were a sports family. I was an elite athlete. You weren't, like, arts were for sissies. Like, there was, it was never. And I really didn't have an eye for art, right? Like, if you really look at, we had big statues of, like, either my grandpa or, like dogs playing poker. So I didn't have those kinds of things. But when, Sarah and my husband do art every week. And so she did something once, and I said, well, that's neat. And she goes, oh, that's assemblage art. And so I went and looked at it. I said, yeah, okay, I'll try that. It's something new because it didn't have to look a certain way, like not paint by numbers. And it's really weird. And I really liked it.
So describe that for me. What is assemblage art?
Well, yeah, you take pieces of different things. Could be junk, could be recycled materials, could be eco, whatever the case is. A lot of dolls' heads. And then you place things on different things. And
Sarah, a little creepy.
Oh, yeah, and you create new things out of it, and so just from your imagination. And it could be, so we did for Halloween, actually, Lyndon and I did, we just took a lampshade. I was like, we could do a thing.
We're just looking at some of the photos
that's
you sent.
Sarah's art,
Like, that's midway through a piece. We like things a little unhinged.
That's
honestly,
fine.
It's great.
And that was it. And so, because we also had all these things lying around, so we invited people over for an assemblage art night, and I said, I'll give it a try. And I made pieces, and I actually took it into my office, and now you'll see it soon. I'm gluing a doll head right there.
Okay.
Don't even ask why I have cow ears. I figure if I'm going to do this, why not be as silly as I can?
You know what? I don't even question anything anymore, Jen, so don't worry.
But I think the key, what was happening here was, one, I'm creating. Two, I'm mindful, so it's taking my mind away from the world's troubles, things like that. And two, being silly, but also we are being environmental. So these are all things that no one was using. Stuff from Dollarama, stuff that, people on Buy Nothing say, I have this porcelain doll. Does anyone want it? I'm like, yeah, but I'm going to take it apart. So I decided I love this. So Lyndon loves it too. And so we're just going to have a monthly assemblage art night at our house for fun. So we found something I not only was reluctant, but I like doing. And I have a lot of fun. And whether it looks good or not, that's up to someone else. I'm having fun, right? So,
Yeah, and I mean, and I love what you said too about, you know, buy nothing, sell nothing. I'm on those all the time, looking for something. And this is where people should be looking, right,
Absolutely.
Sarah? There's so many useful things that we think perhaps for ourselves is useless, but so useful to others, right?
Art is everywhere, and I mean, you see that in my photos too. Like, I'm often taking photos of rusting dumpsters or rotting wood and making that beautiful. But I think the same way in terms of assemblage art, any tiny spare bit you have can be turned into art somewhere along the way. It might not sit in a gallery, but it'll sure make me happy to make weird stuff. So
Well, let's talk about tools then, okay? So if somebody's interested in doing assemblage art, there's obviously some things you should have on hand, not just the things that you're finding out there. What should you have on hand?
I'm going to say the most important part is having good glue.
Okay, good glue.
Fast drying glue.
Yeah, so we have...
if you're not patient to wait for a long time.
We use an epoxy glue like E6000, and then also like an Elaine's tacky glue, depending on what you're gluing to what. Those cover most bases, but you can also use like other fasteners like screws and wires and clay things together. There's lots of different ways. So kind of do a little bit of research on assemblage art and look at what works for you and what kind of speaks to you.
It's like Linda and I call ourselves experiential artists because we don't know any theory. We don't know what we need. And we'll be like, hey, Sarah, how do we glue the shoe that we made onto this lamp to make a person? Because we have no idea. And she's like, okay, well, this is what we need to do. So sometimes you need to go to the internet to say, I want to make these things happen, or just find, you know, Sarah, because she knows all the things.
Have you considered doing workshops?
Absolutely.
Like, that's what I'm
December 5th, we're going to drop it in our house. It's not really a workshop.
We're actually looking at a space to have a permanent studio space where we can run workshops out of. So maybe we'll have some news for you next time we're here.
Okay. You guys are always looking for something new. By you guys, I mean Sarah, for Jen to do.
That's true.
Anything coming up that you're excited about?
I do have some ideas coming along.
Okay.
But until plans are firmed up, but the reason we try lots of things is for moments like this. Jen was not an artist. She was not interested in art. We tried a couple of art things and I kind of started to see a spark, and that's how we landed on something that she now wants to do every month. See?
With
Linden.
With Linden, that's our thing.
You are coming out of your shell.
But look, I also found a way to monetize stuff, but that's my thing too. But it's also, the whole point is, we're just gonna, it's be silly, be yourself, be fun. Bring your junk from your house that you don't want to use anymore, and let's all make something collectively with it. It's great.
We're going to get Linden on the show soon, by the way. I will reach out to you guys this afternoon because 4 years old, he's already got a gallery showing. It's amazing. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Daytime right after this.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Trio Financial Planning, helping individuals and families live today and build for tomorrow. Branton Renovation is pleased to support this episode of Daytime Ottawa. Branton Renovations, Ottawa's award-winning renovations team.
For me, the end was just the beginning. I felt I must come. If I did not come at once, it would be too late. And these places that are watered with the best blood of Canada might only be names and memories. I see it in the soldiers, the grief I know so intimately. And I will not abandon these men to it. The isolation wears on me. Slowly, the silence takes over, as if my heart has given out of air. I cannot talk. I can only paint.
For more than 2 years, Mary Ryder Hamilton painted the battlefields of the First World War, creating an unforgettable visual record of service and sacrifices at immense personal cost.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Dustin Design and Drafting, your first step toward building your dream project with a team approach. Daytime Ottawa Ottawa is proudly supported by Mary's Must Read Book Club. Follow Mary on social media at Mary K. Taggart for her latest book club picks.
We are back continuing a conversation about art, but this is an art of a different kind, which has been around many, many years, like any other style of art, and that is opera. And Opera Ottawa is a fantastic place for an introduction, or whether you've been a fan your entire life of opera. I'm joined by its artistic director, Norman E. Brown. Welcome back, Norman. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Derek. Great to be back.
Let's talk about the beginnings of Opera Ottawa. You've been on the show before, but I don't assume everyone has, seen our previous conversations. What was the inspiration behind it, Norman?
Well, Ottawa has a long history of producing opera, but around 2012, 2013, it was quite clear that opera was going to disappear in Ottawa. And I also wanted to start producing early operas from the Baroque period.
Okay.
So it was... without thinking, I just started producing, and the next thing we had a name, Opera Ottawa. There are so many very talented local singers, and they were not being used in the operas that were being done.
Right.
So it just gave a wonderful opportunity for them to perform, to learn new roles, to work with students from the universities. It just was the start of something that has continued for now 12 years.
Nice. Congratulations on that, because I know what types of challenges there are in something like that. Let's talk about, since the last time you were on the show, what's new at Opera Ottawa?
Well, it has been a very busy time for Opera Ottawa. After I was last here, we had a very unique and very successful all-female magic flute.
Oh, I remember, yeah.
And then that was followed by a world premiere Requiem Mass for female voices. This past September, we kicked off our 12th season with a gala cabaret concert that featured over 25 singers and musicians. We had arias, duets, trios, music from the orchestra repertoire. And now we're working within 2 weeks to produce Handel's Messiah.
Nice. Well, and you'll be conducting this particular piece, is that right? Let's talk about that role. And you were just telling me how excited you are because you've been getting a lot of work. How did that role come about for you, conducting?
I think I've always been interested in conducting. I've had a long career as a singer, but over the time I always was conducting choirs.
Okay.
But it was not my main focus as a musician. But the last 3 years, I wanted to start making the transition, and I've been very fortunate. I received a wonderful Canada Council for the Arts grant last year, which allowed me to go out to Vancouver and work with some amazing conducting mentors. That followed up with the same situation with mentors in Montreal. I had an opportunity by invitation to work in a workshop with the Elmer Eisler singers conducting a Canadian choral piece. And then last June, I was invited to conduct with the Boise Baroque Orchestra.
Congratulations.
So it's coming along nicely. I'm always looking for opportunities to conduct.
See how he looked right into the camera when he said that?
So whether it's opera, oratorio, or orchestral repertoire, I'm there for you.
Wonderful. Let's talk about Handel's Messiah for those that have never experienced it. I mean, it's so magical, isn't it?
It's a work that is done by everyone every year, either at Christmas or at Easter. Our production is going to be different in the sense that I want to create the kind of concert of the Messiah that someone would have heard in the time of Handel himself.
Okay.
So we're using a chamber orchestra of strings and woodwinds and, of course, the 2 trumpets. We have a choir of 25 singers. We have 7 soloists, all local people. We have sopranos Morgan Strickland, Kathleen Radke, Erin Colleen Laurin. We have mezzo-sopranos Carole Portelance and Beverly MacArthur. And making their debut with Opera Ottawa, we have tenor Adam Sperry and bass baritone Jean-Sébastien Kennedy.
Wow.
So again, I want to streamline and sort of get to the point, the whole story of the message of the work. So I'm cutting out a lot of extraneous choruses that really don't add to the story. So I want sort of a streamlined section where we go from the birth to the death to the resurrection, without extraneous things that don't add to that story.
Tickets are available on Eventbrite. They can just look up Opera Ottawa.
Yes, on Eventbrite under Opera Ottawa or Messiah Opera Ottawa, from any of the cast members at the door. Tickets in advance are $50 for adults, $25 for students. At the door, adults are $60. Students are $30, and any children under the age of 10 are free when accompanied by an adult.
Nice. What have you got planned? What's next up for both you personally and for Opera Ottawa?
For me personally, one of my conducting opportunities, I will be conducting the opera Aleko by Rachmaninoff here in Ottawa with New Opera Lyra. That's in March. And that's a very exciting opera. Next September, Opera Ottawa will be kicking off our 13th season with a very special gala fundraiser. And we have engaged a singer from Ottawa, born in Ottawa, who sings at the Metropolitan Opera, who sings at the Canadian Opera Company. And we're going to have an exciting show of Italian repertoire. So the singer, I'm revealing it for the first time, is Mireille Asselin. And in conjunction with that, we're going to have 3 tenors, local tenors, who are going to recreate all the wonderful music that the original 3 tenors, Pavarotti, Carreras, and Domingo sang.
You're a busy man.
It's going to be fun.
Goodness, no kidding, is it? I just want to quickly, before I run out of time, go back to your role as conductor. When you conduct, is that both musically and voices as well?
Yes. For conducting a Messiah, it has the choir, it has the soloist, it has the orchestra.
Wow.
So you basically work with all of them, either separately or individually, and then put them all together. And they just have to follow me, I guess.
But it's just magical to watch a conductor. I said to you, boy, oh boy, I wish I have seen it more than I have, because it is just something really special. So congratulations again on everything. Handel's Messiah, First Baptist Church, by the way, is where it's happening. November 24th at 2:30 p.m. Eventbrite. Just look up Opera Ottawa for your tickets. We'll be back with more right after this.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Trio Financial Planning, helping individuals and families live today and build for tomorrow. Branton Renovation is pleased to support this episode of Daytime Ottawa. Branton Renovations, Ottawa's award-winning renovations team.
Join me, holistic chef Daniela Croco, for season 4 of Simply Cooking by Chef, right here on Rogers TV.
Hello, I'm Liz Dowdswell, Lieutenant Governor of Ontario. In 2008, carbon monoxide, a deadly invisible gas, killed an entire family in our province. That tragedy led to a new law requiring homes with potential CO sources to have alarms. John Gignac's family members passed away that day, and he shares his story to save others.
Please make sure you have working CO alarms in your home. Protect your family today.
Unbelievable. You just never see that. What a shot. Scores! The OHL on Rogers TV.
This episode of Daytime Ottawa is brought to you in part by Dustin Design and Drafting, your first step toward building your dream project with a team approach. Daytime Ottawa is proudly supported by Mary's Must Read Book Club. Follow Mary on social media at Mary K. Taggart for her latest book club picks.
Welcome back to the show. Back to introduce you to another wonderful local author. She has a brand new book. It is right here. It's called Amanda and Her Colorful Nanny. The author is Kathy Nolan. She joins me here on the show. How are you, Kathy?
I'm fine. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure having you. I recognize one of the faces already on this book.
Purely coincidental. I'm only 36. So
you're okay.
It's just what I would look like.
Right. I gotcha. Tell me about the inspiration behind this book.
Well, there's several factors. The main one is growing up with my grandmother all my life.
Okay.
Who was wonderful with words of wisdom and sayings. And being naturally curious as a 7 or 8-year-old, I'd want to know what these sayings mean. Not just why you would say them, but why we started saying them. And then also, I had this great imagination. I was a closet storyteller and writer.
Okay.
And then when I retired, I went into the closet to see if there was any stories worth telling. And Amanda and Her Colorful Nanny was the one that struck me as, let's get this done. Let's get this out there.
So tell me about Amanda. Describe Amanda to me.
Amanda's my inner child.
Okay.
And she's very, very curious, much like me. Her favorite expression is why. It's not enough to say, well, tickle pink means you're happy. Why does tickle pink mean you're happy?
Right.
Or what does true blue mean? True blue mean? Why do we say true blue? And so her whole day of being bombarded with Nanny's expressions of color. Colorful Expressions is another book altogether. Right. But her expressions of color, how would it be at the end of the day? Would she be overwhelmed? Would she be happy? And at the end of the day, Nanny tells her that she has a special ability that she wasn't even aware about.
Yeah, we don't want to give away the special ability here because we want everybody to read about it. But the storyline itself, tell me a little bit about the storyline and how it flows.
Well, Amanda's going to start school, and she has to go shopping for new clothes, books, knapsacks, and Nanny and Amanda's mother and Amanda's sister Sarah go to the shopping mall, and they encounter situations where Nanny says, oh, caught red-handed, oh, true blue, oh, green with envy. And it's like all day long she's encountering different scenarios where that colorful, that expression of color was described by Nanny.
I love that idea. So this is expression of color that's used throughout. Is that something that you used throughout your lifetime, or was it somebody else that you often used?
It was partly my grandmother and me researching, and it's like you don't even realize how often you say something that you're not even aware of why we say it, where it came from. Green with envy was actually from Shakespeare.
Yeah, that's right. I recall that.
Yeah.
Another thing that you added to the book were quizzes. Tell me the idea behind the quizzes, and then what type of quizzes are we talking about?
Well, I'll just show you mildly, quickly.
Sure.
I wanted all of my books, the chapters to start on this page.
Okay.
So it left a couple of blank pages. And another quirk of mine is to like to play games and do quizzes. I always want to prove I'm the smartest person in the room.
Right.
So I thought instead of adding extra images, I'll just add a quiz about what was read. And hopefully it encourages the child or whoever is reading it to say, oh, well, what does tickle pink mean? And then go back or look at what does embarrassed mean, and to try and help them retain what they read.
Right. I was just showing this page. So you said this is the common page throughout?
Yes. Every chapter.
Why that particular?
Not that particular page, but a different page, because I thought this would be cute.
Oh, I see. Just the actual, the polka dots and everything around each character. Are there other characters that we run into throughout the story?
Well, in the Red-Handed, the character Debbie is named after a co-worker and very good friend of mine who knew I was writing, and she wanted to be the beloved murder victim, and I said, no, you're the bad girl, the troubled teen. And she was very, happy that I was going to do that. So she's just the name. She's the nicest person you would ever meet.
Who do you suggest, sort of, age-wise? What age group do you think would enjoy this?
I put 8 to 12.
Okay.
Mainly because Harry Potter series is 8 to 12, and if she could do it, I can do it.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree, 100%.
Yeah.
Do you have plans for any more books?
Well, actually, I'm halfway through the sequel for Amanda and her sister.
Okay.
And I have another child's book that I just finished yesterday that I'm going to try and publish before Christmas.
Nice.
And I have a closet full of scripts that I'm going to look at more closely.
Nice.
And get them out there.
So your pen name is Nola Cat,
Yes.
is that right?
Yes.
Why did you choose that?
That
pen
was
name?
my user ID when I worked. It was
really?
It was the last. It was the first 4 digits of your last name, the first 3 digits of your first name.
Okay.
And mine was the cutest in the office. Everybody was jealous.
Well,
so
of course.
when
No kidding.
tried doing yours, so when
it won't be as good as Nola Cat. That's
so
for darn
that's
sure.
why.
And you have a website up now
Yes,
too, right? NolaCat.com.
I'm creating it.
Oh, you're creating it. Okay.
So it should
Where
be
can
up
people
soon.
pick up a copy at this time?
Okay, there's this local store, Ottawa Loves Local.
Oh, yeah.
It has 4 branches, St. Laurent, Billingsbridge, Bayshore, and Orleans.
Wonderful.
It's in all of those 4, and it's
Okay.
on books on Beechwood.
Oh, excellent. Thank you
And
so
on
much
Amazon.
for this. And on Amazon. There you have it. We'll be back to wrap up right after this.
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home, but the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally. And that's when I first saw Wilf. And I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
All right, let's wrap up the show by reviewing a couple of things we talked about on today's show. Big thanks, as usual, to all of our guests. Crime for Christmas. Peggy Blair, a wonderful author here on the show. She's got this fantastic first ever Ottawa Mystery Author Book Fair. And as I said, it's called Crimes for Christmas. It's coming up at the Barhaven Legion on November the 19th from 4 to 8 p.m. And of course, if you want to find out more about Peggy and what she's up to, reboundpress.com, and you can also follow her on Twitter as well. Norman E. Brown, always a pleasure having Norman from Opera Ottawa on the show. Handel's Messiah, that's on November 24th at 2:30 p.m. and that is taking place at the First Baptist Church. To get your tickets in advance, a little bit more affordable in advance at Eventbrite. So just look up Opera Ottawa at Eventbrite. And if you want to find out more about what Jennifer and Sarah are up to, I just recommend you follow them on social media, on Facebook and on Instagram as well. You can also go to polykindredmarket.com to find out more information. If you have a story idea, please reach out to me on social media. I would love to hear from you. Thanks for watching this edition. We'll see you next time.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Hello everyone, my name is Kwadwo Karamantang. I'm an ICU physician here in Ottawa, and I'm so excited to bring to you our latest show, Solving Healthcare with Dr. K. We're gonna tackle some of healthcare's biggest issues, and more importantly, we're gonna talk about ways to leverage preventive health. How do you avoid seeing someone like myself in the intensive care unit? And this show is exclusive on Rogers TV, so please tune in. You guys are gonna love it.